Highclere Castle in Berkshire. For nearly 80 years, the occupants have lived out their lives in the grip of the most famous curse in the world. The owner is the 7th Earl of Canavan. His family's ancestral story has become entwined with that of a dynasty that died and cursed his kind 3,500 years ago. Lord Canavan has been to Egypt, but like his father, refused to go to the dark birthplace of the curse. His second son, Harry, is equally wary of the curse.
This is my great-grandfather, the 5th Earl. I suppose the best way of describing him was that he was the sort of Indiana Jones of his day, in that he drove one of the first cars, and he was an early photographer. De Havilland flew his first plane here at Highclere, and he was involved in, I think, all of these exciting things. And he crashed his car, apparently.
When he had his accident, that gives an idea of the accident, because there, as you see, he was travelling over the speed limit, first person to be head up speeding in Hampshire on the bit of road which is now the old A34.
And in those days, if you had enough money, your doctor would dispatch you to Egypt to recuperate in the dry heat thereof. And that's where he went. That's where he met Howard Carter, and so began the great quest to find the tomb of King Tut.
November 1922. Howard Carter telegraphs his financial backer, then in England. 3 weeks later, Canavan was back in Egypt exploring the tomb of Tutankhamun. By entering, he invoked the pharaoh's curse on all robbers of the tomb. 3 months later, Canavan was shaving, too close to a fresh mosquito bite.
Apparently cut himself shaving and got infected, septicemia set in, and he died of blood poisoning. And when he died, all the lights apparently went out in Cairo, and his little dog that he was devoted to,
which was in the housekeeper's room here at Highclere, let out a bark and dropped down dead. And it was those sort of things which produced the story of the curse of the pharaohs.
This is where the 5th Earl started working here, this area called Drabble and Naga. And I hope I'll be able to take you up there and just walk round there and have a look in some of the areas.
Highclere's small Egyptian collection is maintained by professional archaeologist Nigel Strudwick.
5 years they worked there.
Around
1907 to 1912, I think it was.
Jordi, son and heir to Lord Canavan, has hesitantly agreed to go to Egypt and be the first in his family to retrace his great-grandfather's doomed footsteps. Adrian Wiley is the business manager at Highclere. He wants Jordi, full title Lord Porchester, back in Egypt, confronting the potentially lethal curse. It's a colourful image that could shift a lot of souvenir pencils and pots of jam with Highclere's name stuck on them.
So why is this trip of interest to the castle? I think from my point of view, and from the castle's point of view, a sense of history yet again is repeating itself. 75, 76 years after the great discovery was made, the family yet again are embarking on another adventure, this time with Lord Porchester.
Do you think he's going to enjoy it?
I think Jordi will enjoy it. He's been a late starter, he's had a few refusals. He's getting married in February, and quite right. His fiancée feels a little reluctant to lose her new amour so quickly.
And so Highclere's archaeologist Nigel Strudwick and his wife Helen are guests of honour at the reluctant Jordi's farewell dinner.
When Nigel joined us, having been highly recommended from the top man at the British Museum, we couldn't be more thrilled, because the role of archaeologist, Egyptologist at Highclere is a very important one, and something that is very important to Lord Canavan.
Why don't we drink the health of Jordi and Professor Strudwick and Mrs. Strudwick, and they have an enjoyable time in the Valley of the Nobles.
I'm sure we will.
So we drink to all of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And good health.
Thank you. Yes.
Jordi and Adrian are to visit Nigel at his dig among the tombs of the nobles. He's looking for the burial place of Senefri, who was the equivalent of the Chancellor of the Exchequer to the warrior pharaoh Tutmosis III 3,500 years ago. To find Senefri's grave intact would be quite a prize. Nigel has excavated a shaft in the courtyard of the tomb complex. He is hoping that it will reveal a secret door leading to Senefri's grave and elaborate burial chambers. At 40 feet, this is an exceptionally deep burial shaft.
I'm sure we shall be striking something interesting soon.
By shovel.
Nigel has been on Senefri's trail for 5 years.
Now what we're looking at here, this is almost the earliest part of the New Kingdom tombs of the nobles, and we start about 1550 BC. Now the tombs here mostly belong to similar sorts of classes of officials. Our Senefri, an overseer of seal bearers, that means he was a sort of person that dealt with financial matters, that sort of thing. And most of these other people are similar. This is a man who was a high priest of Amun down here. Generals, we find all sorts of other officials. So we're talking about the top 1% of the country, maximum 1% at that time, who were unable to get the resources either from the king or from their own money to build these remarkable tombs. What we're looking for at the moment in that shaft that we're digging there, we're hoping that's the burial chamber of Senefri. We're down to about 12 metres at the moment, and these big shafts belong to the first part of the 18th dynasty, these vertical shafts. Afterwards, they seem to move more towards sloping shafts, and it's in the right sort of position. It's in the courtyard. They're always in the front, and they're often to the right-hand side of the courtyard, and that's where this shaft is that we're digging at the moment. So that's what makes us think it's the shaft of Senefri. Everything looks right.
Adrian's dreams of a gold sarcophagus to grace the museum at Highclere are beginning to disappear. As the shaft goes deeper, Helen Strudwick has to climb down the rickety rope ladder to supervise the work.
The way it works is that you see the context is all very similar. We just have to arbitrarily break it up into layers that would go for about 40 to 50 centimetres down each layer, and then process the finds that come up from that.
This is the name of the tomb owner, and his name's Senefri. This reads Nefer, and this reads E, and this is the end of the wall. So this is a piece of granite, and it's from a false door. And we've been finding many, many pieces of granite all around the tomb as we've been excavating. And as if somebody took the false door out from the tomb, because it was fixed in the wall, smashed it up, and then it's just in the debris.
A few bits of false door are no substitute for finding the real thing. The excavation proceeds in a relaxed Egyptian manner that Jordi's great-grandfather would have recognised. One man, however, won't be keeping up with the breakneck pace of Nigel's dig.
I don't care for the dust. And I've only spent about 2 hours perched on top of the hole, seen very little work. But I must compliment Nigel when I see him, because there must be many, many tombs here, but very few tombs with a well-appointed cafe, restaurant, bar on the doorstep. I don't normally drink Heineken at 9 in the morning, but when I've been up here for several hours already, it seems totally appropriate.
Nigel takes Jordi into Senefri's rock-hewn chapel, next to the courtyard, where he has uncovered more burial shafts.
I seem to be predestined in Egyptology to choose tombs with lots and lots of shafts. But this tomb has got 9 shafts. And this is why it's taken us just a long time with the archaeology. Now, the shaft outside, that may well belong to Senefri, but these ones here are nothing to do with Senefri at all. And what in actual fact has happened is that this is a tomb that was reused in the later periods of Egyptian history. After the New Kingdom, they didn't really build many more tombs. And what they did, they took other tombs and just cut new shafts in them and bury themselves in that. And what they've done here, there's no fewer than 5 shafts in the back of this tomb. But this particular shaft is a typical example. It's about 4 metres deep. What you can see here that's really interesting is that large mud brick wall down there, because this is our equivalent in here of, you know, the sort of sealed doorway of Tutankhamun. It's not sealed, but what they did, they built up a large brick doorway once the burial was made, built it right up to the ceiling with mud bricks, and plastered it over, and then filled the shaft with rubble to stop people from going down there.
Jordi has a healthy respect for tombs protected by curses, but Nigel's enthusiasm is proving irresistible.
Any
So give me your hand.
Yes. Okay. Slowly.
No problem.
any last
Descending happily into the depths of the earth.
Okay, no problem.
any last words, Jordi, for Fiona, just in case you don't make it? A little something emotional, or
None too delighted to see me descending down this ladder.
just in case your message needs to get back? I'll stay up here.
I'm looking up. What beautiful ceiling up there.
Discover the past with exclusive ancient history documentaries and ad-free podcasts presented by world-renowned historians from History Hit. Watch them on your smart TV or on the go with your mobile device. Download the app now to explore everything from the wonders of Pompeii to the rebellion of Boudica and the mysteries of prehistoric Scotland. Immerse yourself in the captivating stories of this remarkable era by signing up via the link in the description.
خايف عليك يا مدير كده ممكن أنا شغال.
Now, what we found this room, I mean, the shaft was obviously full of debris, and therefore the debris always slopes across. It's higher here, and then it tapers off down towards the back there. But it was probably about 1/3 full of debris. And the wall here, this is a beautiful example of a mud brick wall that we use for the blocking to keep the to sort of keep the dirt and debris in and robbers out.
Sitting around knocking bits of bricks together, I don't understand it, but then there's no reason why, because I don't understand it, it shouldn't be an excellent pastime. But I gather he's been ferreting around out here in the desert for many years, and obviously loves it, so good for him. But the idea of a 1 in a million chance of finding anything is something which the odds don't stack up for me. But very important for his lordship, very important for Highclere, and as a humble servant, I'm very happy to be here.
You can just see the hieroglyphs there, and these were placed probably somewhere up the top of the tomb up there. What we have is this wonderful book that was produced in England in the 1950s, and it's what we call a corpus, and it has all the funerary cones known in the 1950s. And we can tell you, this is the funerary cone of Sen Nefri. That's the end of his name here.
For 2 weeks each season, volunteer experts come to work on the finds. Pottery buffs sift 3.5 tons of shattered shards spanning 3,500 years. A funereal mask from a coffin in the complex is a unique find. It has taken 3 years to restore to this condition. There are also 40 mummies in various stages of decay. They are the responsibility of the bone man, paleontologist Dr. Tony Waldron.
You might think it was exceedingly dreary going through a box of bones like this. Unless you find a few interesting things, you might not be far wrong. I always think it's a bit like doing outpatients, that you have lots and lots of people queuing up, waiting to see you outside, all of whom got very dreary, ordinary diseases. But then the next one that comes through the door might have something really exquisitely interesting, and that's why you do it. And it's just the same, there are lots and lots of bones here, all of which are normal, and then you find 1 or 2 which are really very exciting. And here is my goodness, I think it's a big cat of some sort, isn't it? Snarling away. Mummified.
Would Carter and Canavan have been interested in this type of material?
Not in the least, I shouldn't think. I think they were the old school of sort of bounty hunters, weren't they? And I think they were interested in finding gold and other things that were going to make them famous. I don't think this sort of work makes you famous, but it does tell you a lot more about the people themselves than one isolated pharaoh, I think. Sorry. No, I mean, that's really very fine, isn't it? And you can see his features really quite well, can't you?
How much was treasure finding a motive for his interest?
Well, it was a motive up to a point. I suppose anyone who's putting a lot of money into a venture might think there might be some return on it. Because right towards the end, I think my great-grandfather was getting a little fed up of putting money in year by year, but not enough to show for it. But Howard Carter, in 1922, there was a sort of famous meeting of them at Highclere. I think my great-grandfather had been racing and that sort of thing, and Carter was there. And he had to do a very good selling job and to get him to fund one more year of exploration. And Carter was very clever, really, because he said, I just got to excavate this final part of my square on the grid of my map, which has not been turned over properly. And really, I'm so confident that I'll fund the whole thing myself. I think my great-grandfather, with his gambler's instinct, thought, well, OK, if you're prepared to say that, then I'll have a go, and I'll fund the final year. So that's how the great triumph came about over this meeting at Highclere, when, in a funny sort of way, my great-grandfather agreed that X probably did mark the spot, finally.
X doesn't seem to mark the door of Senefri's tomb, and neither does Y or Z as they dig ever deeper.
Well, we've done a sort of tranche across investigating where there's possibly going to be a doorway, but didn't actually find anything, which is annoying. But the context seems to be changing slightly down there. The fill material is slightly different in that there's less pottery coming up, a lot less pottery.
It's on that side of the door, though.
You never know, you may find something.
Yeah.
It's usually exciting now
so,
after all this effort.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Well, we hope very much that we'll find the doorway before you have to depart.
Hi.
Lovely morning.
You had a successful time? The last time I saw you disappearing down into the depths, and I decided that I'd come here and pray for you.
Hopefully they're getting closer to this magic door, but we haven't knocked on it yet.
Oh, good. Good. So you've decided to come back down. Is this are we finished for the day up here?
Yeah, we are for today, I think.
Moving on for different pastures?
Yeah.
The quest continues.
Adrian and Jordi return to their hotel, braving the street vendors of Luxor on the way.
Delicious, but not that delicious.
Look here, there's a shell.
How much are they?
1 kilo?
Yes. Yes, German? German, certainly not.
What's inside noodle?
Winter Palace, yeah.
Like his great-grandfather, Jordi and his man Adrian have made the Winter Palace Hotel their home.
I discovered what they call the Victorian sitting room down on the ground floor here, and it is very much decorated the period of the end of last century, beginning of this century. I just thought my great-grandfather, he probably sat there and had tea and held court and had some friends around him or played bridge or whatever. So I went down there and had tea with myself this afternoon just to think about it a moment and to soak up a bit of the atmosphere. This hotel must be full of so many memories of that period, which would have been its sort of heyday of people milling around. And in fact, there were so many people here after the discovery that I gather they put tents up in the grounds to accommodate people.
News from the dig soon interrupts the tranquility of the afternoon.
The message back at the palace was return immediately, door found, which was very exciting news to have sent up to one's room. The fact that one kiss goodbye to one's lunch is secondary importance.
Having just done all the shower and change bit, we've whizzed back into the old dusty rags, and I'm going to get back down and see what's going on. Keep our fingers crossed still.
Telephoned rather than telegraphed, this modern Canavan party should only take 30 minutes rather than 3 weeks to get back to the excavation.
Certainly getting a bit of speed up along here.
Assuming the mummy's curse doesn't get them first in an Egyptian multiple pileup.
Doorway through into the next part of the tomb. Do you want to go down?
I think I want to just have a look. You can help me lower me down into the abyss. Yeah?
Great.
It's just reassuring that it's safe.
واحنا عندنا نحملوه نرسل
Keep tight.
Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Tell me where my feet are, go.
Yeah. Keep going down.
Slowly but surely, Adrian's precious charge is lowered into the abyss.
Down. No, you can only get your toe on there, I think. You okay? Yeah. You're on. Nigel, can you see where his feet are going?
You've got a good firm grip on that.
Yeah, don't worry about it. They can pull you right up.
Okay. How far to go now?
He's about 2 rungs off the bottom, I'd say.
Right, another one. And another one. And you can go. You can move off to your right onto the floor now.
Oh, brilliant.
Whoops, hang on. There you go.
Great stuff.
Okay, there he is. He's here.
That's it. He's on the ground now. Yeah. There he is. Well done.
Hello there.
We meet underground.
Yes.
It's very exciting. This guy absolutely determined to make sure that no one found his burial place.
Well, he certainly did his best, didn't he?
I mean, this is pretty deep stuff.
Well, I mean, you know how your great-grandfather felt. I mean, except he didn't have to go down a sort of 13-metre shaft.
Right, so where
you need to look in through there. Oh. And mind you, because your hat might fall off as you bend down, but it does. I can't promise you everywhere the glint of gold, but...
Should I just do that for the moment? Don't put anything down here at the moment.
Stanley, واحد دقيقة يا أستاذ من فضلك.
Well, I'm looking through here into the great big cavity with lots of...
he hasn't got his hat on at the moment.
Lots of rocks.
Of the hole.
Well, I can see at the moment goes quite a way back, maybe 20, 30 feet, and an awful lot of boulders and rocks down here at the moment.
It was very exciting to look through into this chamber, which obviously hadn't been touched for eons, really. It was more the sort of gloomy, eerie flickering of shadows on the boulder. Oh, there's debris all over the place. And I do see, I think, one bit of pottery on one side.
Oh, brilliant.
So at the moment, it's debris and boulders and nothing that was, to my eye, obvious, but, you know, we've hardly seen anything yet. So.
Did you see any gold? That's the question.
Did I see any gold? No, I didn't see any gold. I've got to be honest about that, but who knows what might be hidden beneath the rubble.
Within an hour, Nigel has dug a gap. It's just big enough for him to squeeze through into the unknown.
Good job, I don't mind doing this sort of thing. This is one of the hardest ones I've ever done, I have to confess. Usually, you know, you have to keep me out. I have to be physically restrained from going down these sorts of things.
Really?
Oh yeah, because I
love it.
Oh, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I mean, it's really great to go somewhere where, you know, no other person has been. Right. I mean, there are various bits and pieces lying around. I don't know what I've seen that.
What's that?
Well, this is a piece of a coffin, and it's part of the formula that says for the soul of, and it's a prayer, and of course underneath it would be the name of the person. And this is archaeology is always like this. I mean, this to me is the sort of thing that when the tourist says to you, "But has everything been found in Egypt?" I mean, okay, we haven't found Tutankhamun, but it doesn't have to be gold coffins and this sort of thing. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that is. Is there anything else? There's a chamber off here to the right, which is about 3 or 4 metres long. It's like one of these sort of antechambers. It's interesting. It's a bit like a sort of a king's tomb where you have this antechamber and then you go down that passage there to what I think is the burial chamber. It's really not quite nasty. I mean, the reason I'm obviously concerned also about walking around too much is because then we might be treading and damaging. That's what I'm worried about. That sort of thing. That's why I'm putting my weight on the walls so that I don't put too much on the ground. You can just see there's small pieces of pottery, pieces of wood on the surface, piece of bandage down here. As far as I can tell, we are at the end of the tomb now. So I think this is, we might be looking at his burial chamber.
What would happen to thieves in the old days when they...
In pharaonic times?
Yeah.
They were impaled on stakes.
Whatever the potential consequences of opening a 3,500-year-old burial chamber, it's a great moment.
Absolutely.
Excavators and aristocrats have earned themselves a small celebration.
Normally Alan has his food served by Nubian wenches, but I'll have to do it tonight.
Well, it looked very similar.
And they've certainly done us proud tonight. But
you know that better than I do.
Ethnain is 2. 3 is Talat. 4 is Abba. 5 is Khamsa. Got it right.
Very good.
And 6 is
Sitta.
7 is Saba. 8
Tamania.
In the morning, Jordi will be facing a more dangerous challenge. He has decided to go to the Valley of the Kings. The son of the Lord Canavan, reputedly killed by the mummy's curse, never put a foot in Egypt. His son, the present Lord Canavan, has, but avoided this cursed place. Jordi is to be the first Canavan to re-enter the tomb of Tutankhamun.
And this is... So Carter first found this step around
here. Over
here.
This is underneath this one. It is the first step. This is the first door.
Yes, because he said there were the steps. Then after the door, there was an angle down deeper, which is this next part pathway. But it wasn't a step. It was a sloping corridor.
Sloping, yeah.
I can just imagine my great-grandfather being here and seeing these wonderful objects, being a feast for the eyes. You can just sit and stare at it all for some time. And just looking at that magnificent gold face of Tutankhamun.
are you feeling? All right?
I'm feeling fine. Adrian's winding me up as if I should be suddenly feeling a bit weird.
Although no sign yet of Senefri, there is plenty for Tony Waldron, the bone man, to explore.
What's that?
Well, it's pelvis and a pair of legs, but it's actually difficult to see. But it's solidified in a great sheet. Well, the Egyptians, as you know, had to be resurrected intact, and so they had to ensure that all the bits were there. So the males were often given something to ensure that they survived intact. So yeah, all right. That's an artificial penis.
What would have happened to the original?
Well, it would rot off. It's nasty, nasty thought, chaps. This is a young child, and we found the various bits scattered throughout the tomb, but the interesting thing about this is this lump of vertebra. You can see how the top surface, which should be nice and flat, has been eaten away. Right. There's a particularly deep hole there. And one of the most frequent causes for that is tuberculosis. I suppose one interesting feature is that it's clear that people who could afford to be buried in this tomb were wealthy. And this is a disease which in our time was a disease of the poor, but clearly in those times could affect the rich as well. And it may well have come from contaminated milk or milk products, for example. So it would be interesting to know if this is the bovine form of TB or the human form. And if we could show that it was the human form as long ago as this, that would be very interesting indeed. What the archaeologists are trying to do is to recreate past populations and past societies. And what we're able to do as bone specialists and paleopathologists is actually come face to face, literally in some cases, with members of that population. So we're able to absolutely say something definite about the people from their remains and not from the artefacts which they left behind.
Nigel has found exciting new evidence which can put an individual's name to a mummified skeleton 700 years younger than Senefri.
This is part of one of the coffins of Wedjahor, who was the fourth priest of Amun in the reign of Shabaka, and was probably buried here in 705 BC. But what we can do with this is we can actually put the whole name together, because we've got these other pieces that join on. There's the Jah and the beginning of the Horus bird there, and there's the rest of it. It doesn't fit together perfectly because the wood has sprung when it lost its when its tension had been smashed up. There you've got the name. If you just see 1, 2, 3, 4 of, so priest, fourth of Amun, Wedjahor.
Why was the stuff so comprehensively smashed?
The classic robbing of the mummies was to sort of, hack your way into the coffin, rip the bandages off, and looking for scarabs and amulets and anything else that might have been in there, which they could then shove inside your galabeah and go off and sell to the antiquities dealers or the foreigners. This is the mummy of Wedjahor. Normally when you find tombs like this, which is ransacked, you can rarely ever tell who somebody is. Now we've got bits and pieces of coffin with the name of Wedjahor on it. In the same area as we found this mummy, we found some linen with the titulary of King Shabaka on it. He came to the throne about 715 BC, and in about his second year he pulled the whole country together, so he was a sort of very important king. And then next to that we found a piece of linen which has got the titles of Wedjahor, fourth priest of Amun, and so on, and then it said there's a year 10 down there. So we thought, aha, Wedjahor buried year 10 of Shabaka. Now that means year 10 of Shabaka is about 705 BC, sorry. And on one of the legs that we were able to join with this mummy, on this leg there was another bit of linen, and this bit of linen on it gave us part of the titulary of Shabaka. So what we've done is, we've done the old sort of Sherlock Holmes archaeological deduction thing and thought, the probability of there being 3 bits of linen to get in the same sort of area that belong to different people is pretty low. And so the very fact that we've got Shabaka linen on here, Shabaka linen separate, Wedjahor linen separate, but all in the same area, means that this is the body of Wedjahor. And this is really unusual when you're talking about a ransacked tomb like this one, because you find bodies, you find hundreds of bodies in some tombs we were in before. You can never point at one and say this is somebody. And it's really, really great for us to have this body down here, this man about whom we knew so little before we found his tomb. But now, we can date him with a precision that's, almost unheard of at that particular period.
The mummy's curse, if that is what it was, finally killed Lord Canavan in Cairo in 1923. Jordi has decided to leave the dig to find out for himself exactly where his great-grandfather died.
Reading about the bill of lading from Robert Jackson Co. provisions my great-grandfather had sent out to Egypt. Wine biscuits, sardines, 3 tins of tongue, oriental pickle, 10 tins of peaches, pears, apricot salmon, curried fowl. Wow, we haven't had any curried fowl yet. He travelled with his daughter, Lady Evelyn, quite extensively. I think she accompanied on a number of these trips. And outside that, I guess he might have had a sort of valet with him as well, I guess. And maybe 1 or 2 other people fetching and carrying, as was the case in those days.
Well, at least you're travelling with just a mere man, a mere servant.
Two-way intercom. Theoretically, it will allow us to communicate easily from top to bottom of the shaft. It's the theory, anyway.
Back at the dig, Helen and Nigel have only 2 weeks to find final proof that this is Sir Nefri's burial place. They must up the pace, and so have hired a crane to clear the rubble and widen the shaft. They are working in the deep burial chambers stretching back underneath the courtyard, and so have bought in the best communications equipment that dig money can buy.
Oh, you don't know how to do it, Nigel. It's very, very complicated. You press the button and speak. It's plain cheese. Hello? Hello? Hello?
He's here.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That's the way it's meant to work then. Hooray.
Don't say over, aren't we? Hello?
You didn't say over. Over.
Over.
I'm not keen on this thing. I'd rather go down the rope.
Helen, terrified of heights, is less happy with this mechanised form of transport.
No, I don't want to see. Not my favourite way of transport.
It's a long way down, especially when the sophisticated communication system malfunctions.
By the mosquito, I think, in Aswan in the south, where he'd gone for a short time. Didn't think much of it for a while, because there was no drugs to deal with that then, and he was a weak man, really, in any case, from the accidents that he'd had and the motor accidents in the car. But luckily to date, I haven't got a bite on me anywhere.
No bites? Yeah. Feeling well?
Yes, absolutely. No insects got at me yet.
So when he was taken ill, this would have been the way gone to Cairo, you think?
When he became ill, he was moved to the Continental Hotel, and the suite of rooms that your father actually died in was still there. Very keen to track that down if we can.
That would definitely mean something. I'd feel I was finding a link to the past there. If we can do that somewhere.
Let's have a look what we got here. Ah! What this dust here is all from the shaft. It's all backfilled into here. I hope this doesn't go on any further. I'll take my hat off at this point. No, it doesn't. I don't think. It sort of stops there. Nice skull here. Got some teeth left intact. Oh. Ow. These are bits of mummy bandage that have been peeled off when somebody's been stripping mummies around here. What have we got here? There's another bit of skull there. Some ribs, look here. Even though they're sort of tiny little things, it just is so exciting to sort of learn about a culture from the past. And I don't know, I get this incredible feeling of closeness to these people. Then you remember that this was a person loved by his friends, his family. Poor chap.
I've not seen a mummified baby as well preserved as that before. Poignant, isn't it? I think one does feel a bit more upset by the death of children that age. So well preserved, could almost be sleeping.
I feel a kind of empathy with these people, and so I don't feel that we're sort of desecrating their burial places or anything like that, which some people I know find difficult. And we had a student with us one year in the other tombs that we were working in, and it used to be quite interesting because the underground work was all rather like this, mounds of stuff like this with legs sticking out and, a skull here and an arm here in quite a grotesque position. And anyway, the first day that she was there, we sort of gave her a talk around about what we were doing. And I took her into all the underground rooms and we were scrambling around and crawling past bits of body. And it never occurred to me that she might find it difficult at all. And we got back to the surface and she said, I'm sorry, I can't go back down there ever again. And I was so upset because she was there meant to be helping us, of course, which, so we know it sort of limited what she could do for us. But also I just felt so terrible that I'd never thought that it might upset anybody.
The balcony you see there just above the Continental with a couple of tired plants, that was the entire balcony area that he had. The central room being the room where the main suite of reception area was, a colossal area, although decayed, not as decayed as the rest of the hotel, but nevertheless with that same sort of magical time capsule. And to the right of it is the room that Lord Canavan died in. Is it in here? Even just to show him.
الساعة 3 قبل الساعة 5 على الطيارة. ما هو أنا معيش المفاتيح بتاع الحاجات المقفلة دي. الله. أنا بس قاعد تحت أصلا تحسبا لأي. طب ده هيفتحه إزاي؟ هو ده بقى المفروض إن هو بيكون من الصبح لحد الساعة 3. You haven't the key of this door. Okay.
There's all the excitement about the fact my great-grandfather died so soon after the discovery. But I think he would have certainly been remembered to this day had he lived for some years after the discovery. I'm sure the names of Carter and Canavan are indelibly written in archaeological history. I don't think there's any getting away from that.
I think initially there was a very much a sort of the approach like let's go and do a bit of archaeology because we're here for our health or something like that. But then Canavan did that and he got interested in it and he got Carter in to help him. And Howard Carter did on the tomb of Tutankhamun the best archaeological job that was done at that time and would still have, I think, been pretty good today. Things are going to change and people in 100 years are going to be looking at what we did and saying, my God, they were terrible in those days, but we're doing the best that we can with what's available to us at the moment.
I mean, I think we have always felt that if you feel something needs doing, you shouldn't just talk about it and say to people, something ought to be done. You ought to get on and do it yourself. I mean, we've always felt that, and we decided years ago, with very limited means, to start working out here.
the problem with archaeology, you never know when it's going to be finished. You can't say to somebody, I'll finish that in 5 years, because if if you then find, like we did, 9 shafts, we thought this was going to be finished in 3 years, this project. I mean, we're in our, 7th season now, and we still, it's going to be an 8th season, maybe a bit of digging, and certainly we've got to study all this stuff, because this year we're just digging like mad, and we haven't got time to study anything.
It took Howard Carter 10 years to catalogue the wondrous treasures of Tutankhamun, now in the Cairo Museum. Egypt has not cursed Jordi as it did his famous ancestor. Instead, it has captivated him.
He's absolutely bowled over. I don't think I've ever seen him quite so entranced by it all. He's in a world of his own.
Yet another Canavan has fallen for the mysteries of Egypt. Adrian Wiley has succeeded in continuing the link between the Canavans and their Egyptian heritage. So what of the man who originally brought them all here, Sanefri? Nearing the end of his digging season, Nigel finds a small treasure in his tomb.
It's an inlaid eye from a coffin, probably from a wooden coffin, and they leave a little recess, a little hole in the wood, and they insert this eye. And this came from the big shaft here that we're digging here, and I see no reason why it isn't 18th dynasty. Might be from the coffin of Sanefri. Just a few days before the dig finished, at the end of December, we got into the burial chamber, went through all the stuff, enormous amount of stuff there, and it's all turned out to be 18th dynasty, all contemporary with Sanefri, lots of bits of papyrus, really tantalising stuff, bits of coffin, and one of the most interesting things of all was a head that we found beautifully mummified with sort of the lips modelled in the bandages, and we're pretty sure that's Sanefri. We found him.
No gold and no treasure in this tomb. But the bones and mummy linen of Sanefri and those around him have helped fill another gap in our knowledge of life and death in ancient Egypt 3,500 years ago.
I'm sure great-grandfather, as he was lying there in Cairo from about the middle of March to when he died in early April 1923, he must have realised he was getting sicker and sicker with blood poisoning and septicemia, that he wasn't going back to his beloved Highclere. I spent sitting there in the Continental Hotel in Cairo. I'm sure he was thinking of its wonderful park and the castle and everything all at the same time. All sorts of conflicting emotions about this great discovery in Egypt, and but yet wanting to be back home, probably.
The body of the 5th Earl of Canavan, Jordi's famous great-grandfather, was brought home from Egypt and was buried on Beacon Hill, overlooking his beloved Highclere Castle.
Fingers crossed we got away with it this time.